Hi class, and welcome to your next video on chromosomal mistakes. So as we talked about before, non-disjunction is when a chromosome fails to assort correctly into gametes during meiosis. So what this means is that, say we have in a human we have 46 pairs of chromosomes, but in a gamete we only have 23 because we have half the amount. Well, you're going to have an extra of like autosome number 2 or 3 or the sex chromosome. One of those did not assort correctly, so you have an extra or you are missing one because it did not fully come apart in meiosis. So this becomes a problem when a normal gamete is joined with a gamete with abnormal numbers. So if we join these together, obviously we no longer are going from half the number of our chromosomes to the full number, but we have an odd set of numbers to another odd set of numbers, which throws the whole system off. So those extra chromosomes, remember we have autosomes and sex chromosomes. The smaller the additional autosome, the higher likelihood that the individual can survive into adulthood. So remember that the higher the number, the smaller the autosome is. This is why we can see more individuals that have trisomy 21 than like trisomy 3, because most of the individuals that have trisomy 3 are going to be spontaneously aborted as embryos. So trisomy 21, like most of us know, is a common chromosomal abnormality known as Down syndrome. It affects 1 out of 700 children born, and what it is it's an extra copy of the chromosome 21, but it actually produces several defining characteristics. If you were to look at someone with trisomy 21, they have a rounded face. They have a skin fold at the inner corner of the eye. They generally have a flattened nose bridge, small irregular teeth, short stature, heart defects, and they are actually susceptible to respiratory defects and leukemia. Now, we have seen that non-disjunction actually occurs in older females. So the older one is when they have children, the more likely they are to have a child with Down syndrome or to have a child with other types of non-disjunction disorders. So their non-disjunction, like I said, can affect our autosomes or our sex chromosomes. So abnormal numbers of sex chromosomes lead to something totally different than the autosomes. So they seem to have a lot less effect on us than the abnormal numbers of the autosomes, though. An extra X in males is generally known as Klinefelter syndrome. Now recall that the normal male has the chromosomes XY. Klinefelter syndrome occurs at 1 in every 2,000 male births, and the testes are abnormally small and the individual is usually sterile. Sometimes there can be abnormal formation of male breasts with this. Males with an extra Y tend to have no defined syndrome. And sometimes we call these super males. They tend to be taller, but they don't tend to have any other disorder associated with it. Females with an extra X chromosome are actually considered normal. The reason this is because females are already have 2 X's. They have the chromosomes XX as their sex chromosomes, and in all of their cells only use one of those chromosomes. So the extra X chromosome becomes what is called a bar body. Well, this extra X chromosome, if the female is XXX, becomes an extra bar body. So you could have XXX and have 2 bar bodies instead of the normal 1 bar body. Females missing an X have a syndrome known as Turner syndrome. These individuals are sterile and without any kind of hormones, they do not develop secondary sex characteristics that we generally see in females. So alteration of chromosomal structure is another thing we look at with chromosomal abnormalities. These can be deletions, duplications, inversions, and translocations. Now, a deletion is when a portion of a chromosome is lost, and this can be an autosome or a sex chromosome, and you're going to lose that part of the genetic material. The duplication is a fragment joins to a sister chromatid or a homologous chromosome. The inversion is a fragment reattaches to the original chromosome but in reverse orientation. And translocation is the attachment of a chromosome fragment to a non-homologous chromosome. Okay, make sure you got great notes, and we will talk about this later in class.